One. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hungry People Podcast, home of the hungry people. It is your boy, Michael Patrick Buckley, and here with co-host, the stunning, the legend, AJ the Killer Diveka. Guys, we have an awesome guest for you today. This is Dr. Ben. He's a doctor of chiropractic out in Phoenix, Arizona. An awesome, warm, juicy place, unlike Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania here. I don't think we've seen the sun for 4 months. But Dr. Ben, he's through a lot. He's been through a lot with his health, overcame an autoimmune issue, eating a raw vegan way of living. And it's really awesome to have him here today. And it's also so great to be able to connect with amazing people like Dr. Ben online who are promoting such an influential and positive health message. So Dr. Ben, thanks so much for coming on, and we're excited to talk to you.
Well, hey, thanks for having me on. I'm a podcast listener. I really enjoy the show. So I'm been waiting to do this a while. So I'm
nice. Yeah, cool. Well, it's good to have you. AJ, say hello.
Hey, what's up, guys? Good to be here. Excited to have Ben on. I think we've been talking for a year, maybe or so, here and there throughout the whole pandemic type of thing, and it's super nice connected with you, hearing your message. Actually, I find your recommendations interesting, especially compared to a lot of the other plant-based doctors. So I'm looking forward to diving into that a little more. I know you just told me off camera your source of inspiration for changing up your nutrition habits, and looking forward to diving into that too.
Yeah, cool. So let's just get started by just talking about how you got into this and the issues that you were dealing with early on in your life, and what really brought you to this way of eating. Love to hear.
Sure. So, it wasn't early on in my life. It wasn't really till I was maybe 27, 28 years old that I ran into problems.
Okay.
I had pretty much been healthy my whole life, as in no health issues. Didn't really get sick much as a kid, was never overweight. Was always into sports and stuff like that. And not that I was a great athlete or anything, but I was like I had nothing out of the ordinary wrong with me. But then when I hit about 27, 28 years old, I started getting really bad digestive issues, really bad skin issues, really bad chronic fatigue. And I developed this chronic pain kind of muscle ache thing that was kind of always going on. And then it slowly it started out kind of innocent, and then over the course of 6 to 12 months just ballooned to the point where I could barely work, and I was in pain all the time. I was sleeping every weekend. I was just my digestion was just every meal I ate was knocking me on my butt. And it just
you were just falling asleep after, or
oh no,
I would you just couldn't handle the meal.
I would just be distended and have a lot of pain. Sometimes if I ate something really unhealthy, 9 out of 10, I gotta lie down and this,
right.
Distended, bloating.
Bloated, yeah, bloated, and then just pain after most meals. And it started out that didn't feel too good, but then it was after almost every meal, I was okay, maybe something's wrong,
Yeah. Did that feel scary to you? Because I know that when I was sick, I was scared to eat, but I was scared to be malnourished as well. Did you have any of that going on?
Eventually it got to the point, I don't know if I would say I was scared to eat, but I was not looking forward to it. But it crept up on me slowly over the course of a year. So in the beginning it was when you eat a meal and you're that didn't feel too good, right? And whatever. But I was also in a lot of denial, where it's just oh, this is normal. It's just, I just ate a heavy meal and that's just normal. Right. But then it was really painful to the point of oh, gotta do something about it. But being in denial and being I'm fine, it's gonna be okay, this will pass. But it just kind of reached a boiling point. But I was
were you constipated and stuff, or no?
Oh yeah, big time. I was pooping once a week.
Jesus. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there's people out there who would say that that's healthy. So.
Oh, okay.
The carnivores.
The carnivores, they would say that if you eat only meat, your body just absorbs it all, so you don't even have to poop. Not sure where you stand on that.
Yeah, have you heard of that before or no?
I mean, I catch wind of a lot of the carnivore stuff that's going on, but I hadn't heard the whole like pooping once a week is normal.
Yeah.
I did it for a while. It sucked. So I prefer the twice a day on the reg.
Yeah.
What did you not like about it? What physically did you not like about it?
Just feeling really bloated. And then when you actually did have to do the once a week, it was super painful and uncomfortable and like tons of gas and like, of course, like pain after meals. And like, I can't believe I'm having to make the case for why that sucked.
No, I was surprised because a lot of people say that when they go carnivore that they have no bloating and their stomachs are flat and everything. They're saying like for them, the fiber is what makes them feel that feeling.
I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot of denial, in the community and people. I mean, I don't really know, but I know a lot of people who've like bonked out on it, and I have a lot of people coming to me who've been doing the, low carb, no carb, bro carb, whatever. And they're all jacked up on it and ready to do the plant thing. So
that's cool.
It's a rotating door.
Yeah, I feel like on social media here, you don't hear like the people who were like hardcore carnivore, like low carb, and they're like now they go plant based and vegan. Like it seems like the ones that we only see are the ones who are like vegan and like dry fasting and eating one meal a day of oranges, and then they go vegan because oh my, or they start eating meat again, and wow, this meat feels amazing, because they were under eating calories. So I just feel like we don't really hear the one where the people go vegan, so it's cool to hear that from you. But I don't know. Anyways, let's I wanted to ask you, what were you eating during that time when you like felt that pain?
I was on a steady American diet of, pizza, burritos, takeout Vietnamese food, and energy drinks.
So basically what a lot of people nowadays eat.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Have you had an energy drink?
Standard American results.
Yeah. Have you had any energy drinks since?
I'm sorry, what?
Have you ever had, or have you had energy drinks since your change in lifestyle?
May 11th, 2011, I underwent hypnosis to stop energy drinks and never had one since.
Wow.
So, but that was the only way I could stop. I mean, I was like 2 to 3 a day,
Holy
especially
heck.
with the chronic fatigue. It's just it was the only way I could function. I was like hardcore addicted. Like, I mean, I would have just insane withdrawals trying to stop or even cut down. And it was sort of like at my wit's end, like Hail Mary, like, I don't believe in any of this crap, but like, let's $100 hypnotize me. Go for it, lady. Boom, worked.
Wow.
No way, that's insane.
That is cool.
What would you have to say for somebody out there who they're on the energy drink, they're on the coffee lifestyle, and they're just tired all the time, but they just keep downing stimulants, and they don't know a way out of it. Like, this is kind of sort of all they know. Like, do you have any recommendations for something that they should possibly do to make a change in their life?
Well, my opinion, I tried everything to quit, like all the little like ways to draw down and like substitute with this and that, and
Right.
hypnosis is the only thing that works. So, I mean, like, I have no endorsements to say that. I don't practice, but that's the only thing that worked for me. So,
How did you even hear?
There's other ways to quit, but that's what I did.
Yeah.
Did you try to hypnotize yourself to do other good habits after that, since it worked, or is that the only time you've used it?
Yeah, I did hypnotize myself to wake up early. So that's maybe why I was like, guys, let's do the early show because I don't care.
Right.
And then I've kind of, over the years, I've shifted to use a different modality that it feels like more powerful than hypnosis, which is called theta healing, which is like a modality that gets you in this like theta suggestible state. It's not as deep as hypnosis, but you can do other things with it because you can kind of like like affirm certain things. It's a long story, but we could get all into the mind control, habit change stuff. That could be a whole episode.
Yeah, right.
Habits are super interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
So how'd you even come across hypnosis? Like, I don't even think that would even be something that come to my mind, or even a recommendation from anybody. I've never even heard of it. I mean, I've obviously heard of hypnotizing people, but
Yeah.
not to like get over an issue.
Oh, I guess I'm not sure. I mean, this was a long time ago. I think I was like reading about it on the internet, and I was reading about like how to quit bad habits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was like quit smoking. Like everyone was like, "Oh, I quit smoking with hypnosis." I'm like, well, I've never touched a cigarette in my life, but like, goddamn, these monsters are just killing me.
Yeah, right.
Like, I like just sort of like, I don't know. I got to the point where, with my health and all the issues that I had, I went down the whole medical road, right? And I went down the whole like, let's try to eat I tried a lot of things before I came to like the raw vegan diet.
Yeah.
As like what I was willing to, which I was like reluctantly like, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot. I don't know if it's gonna work, but like I'm desperate here, right?
Right.
And then it worked. And that really opened my eyes of like, okay, well, let's be open to things, right? Like, if nothing else is working, let's give the weird shit a try, because like I need help, right? And I like, it took a lot of humbling myself to like reach that point. But once the raw vegan thing like worked, like, I don't want to use the word miraculously, but like that's the word that comes to mind.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, and I continue to be that to this way. Like, I'm still very like evidence-based, left brain, like show me the data. But at the same time, I'm willing to think outside the box, go outside the box to get results.
You have
because
to,
that's what I care about at the end of the day. Like, I don't, like, if it works and it doesn't have side effects, I don't care.
Right.
Yeah. Results over theory. So what were some of these doctors that you were seeing before you found the nutrition habits change? Like, what were they saying to you? Were they just not giving you any answers?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, like, you would go to the GP and they would say like, okay, all right, you got digestive issues, we're gonna send you to the gastro. You got skin issues, we'll send you to the derm guy. You got like muscle pain, we'll send you to the rheumatologist. And so it's like one doctor like octopus out into like 5 doctors.
Yeah.
And then each of them is like running the blood work and going, I don't know, doesn't look like really anything's wrong with you, guess you're okay.
You hear that all the time.
Yeah. And then of course in their model, if it's like they see through this like tunnel vision, where it's like, if they don't know what it is or wasn't in their textbook, it doesn't exist and you're not actually sick.
Yeah.
And so I got a lot of just like the run around, like, oh, let's pass you off to the next guy. And so it wasn't that like anybody was malicious, or necessarily even incompetent. You could argue that, but it's just sort of like they didn't know and they couldn't figure it out. And so they're just like kind of throw their hands up, and they're not paid to get results, right? They're just paid to like see you for the 7 minutes and then bill your insurance, right?
Yeah. Did that take like a psychological toll on you at all? Because I know a lot of people, they get like heard, what they'll hear over and over again is, hey, it's in your head. Yeah. That sort of like thinking. And then they start to reflect on themselves, be like, is it because I'm just thinking too much? Am I overthinking it? When really these people are sick and they need to get healthier.
Yep. And then it's I hate that phrase. It's like, okay, we've isolated the problem into this region. What can you do to fix it? Right. So yeah, that happens a lot. They're told that they're the problem. And so I was kind of at a point in my life where I was just like, maybe it was because of the work environment I was in, that I really got fed up quickly with people who weren't doing their job well. And so I got angry and just sort of like, wow, y'all are incompetent. This is stupid. I'm actually pretty smart. I'm gonna figure this shit out. Man,
good for you.
Yeah. And so Yeah, so that's it, just got frustration. Like, you know, I talk to people who've been like kicked around by the medical system for 14 years and they're finally willing to make a change.
Wow.
I didn't last that long. After about a year, I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, and I think like part of it is like when you have insurance and the insurance is paying for everything, you're like, well, it's just another doctor visit. I'm just paying the $20 copay. I know I'm not going to get, you know, they're not going to tell me anything, but I might as well go. As well go, right? And then time becomes the issue. Like, you're not really investing a lot of money, but you're like, am I going to drive across town to this next bozo? Like, really? Like, I know what they're going to say.
Yeah.
And so, so I started investigating. And of course, I found information that says, well, if you eat healthier, a lot of these problems go away. And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool, bro. But like, let's figure something else out, you know, like that, because I don't want to be doing that. Yeah. You know, I like my microwave energy drink diet, you
know. Right. So yeah, similar to like what AJ was saying earlier, you mentioned that you found somebody that was sort of like, I guess, your guide, or kind of like a bit of a way out for some of this stuff. You want to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I mean, things kind of evolved, and eventually I thought like, okay, I'll try this like eating healthier thing. I'd gotten a food allergy test because I was just like, maybe there's a food allergy. Like, I'd seen people like say like, oh, well, there's gluten. I thought, oh, come on, like quit being such a baby. Like bread is making you sick. Give me a break, like bread that's been around for thousands of years is making you sick.
Right.
And so then I get the test, and of course I'm allergic to gluten, soy, and dairy, and yeast.
Wow.
And, everything I'm eating.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like, well, what am I going to eat? Like gluten-free air sandwiches. So I start buying like the Amy's like gluten-free, soy-free, fun-free mac and cheese at the store. And of course it's expensive. It tastes like cardboard. I'm not really feeling that much better. And I get this idea, and like, I had not researched nutrition at all. I just knew what I wasn't supposed to eat. I'd never like, let me look up a book or read a thing or anything. I was completely ignorant, I was just going off of like what I knew in my head. And I thought like, okay, well, maybe I could do smoothies, right? Like, it just came into mind, like fruits and vegetables have got to not bother me. And I think I learned in kindergarten that those were like good for you or something, right? And so it's like, I bought them at the grocery store, and they also just rotted in my fridge, why not, take a few of these out, throw them in the blender. And so I started doing that with really no like game plan or like recipes. It was just sort of like, habanero pepper, throw it in there, I like spicy food. And so like, I would make these smoothies, and some of them would taste pretty good and some of them would not. And I got to the idea at one point of like, maybe I could look up recipes on the internet.
Right.
And so that was kind of like the falling down the rabbit hole. Like, I typed in like smoothie recipes into YouTube, and guess what shows up? This hippie guy in a van in the woods in Washington State, like making smoothies like in his front yard. And that was pretty much my reaction. I was like watching him, and it's like this guy, and he's like obviously like a ex-druggie, like burnout dude. And he's like, yo, I'm out here in the woods, like making my smoothie. We're using fruits and vegetables because they heal you. Like, check it out. And and then he would give these like, like long lectures on like, if you have cancer, I would be drinking this. Like, don't let them cut your organs out or burn you or poison you. Like, you want to be drinking the fruits and vegetables. And I was like, oh my God, dude, just shut up and make the recipe. Like, who is this guy? But at the same time, I was like fascinated, right? It was like, like, this is cool, like, this guy's interesting. Like, I don't believe anything he's saying, looks like a total idiot, but like, I'm entertained.
Right.
But so I start, and it's Dan McDonald, the life regenerator, who I just found out lives an hour and a half away from me now. I'm gonna have to like go there and show up and like, oh, you my life, sir. Which I met him once, maybe like 2015. He was an awesome dude.
Nice.
But
where'd you meet him at? Where'd you run into him?
At Olax in Fountain Valley, California.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Amazing vegan restaurant. Like if you're ever in Orange County, you gotta go there.
Sounds great.
Is that the one Luke Rona's always at?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Okay.
met him there too. Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm watching the videos and like kind of laughing him off. And I'm even like trolling comments, like just make the recipe, you stupid hippie, you know? And then at one point he comments like, hey, it's interesting that you like, you know, keep saying stuff like this, but you're still here watching the videos. And I'm like, that is interesting.
Yeah, right.
And it was sort of one of those things that like the stuff he was saying was starting to make sense, especially because I was noticing as I did more of his recipes and just incorporated more raw foods, like I was feeling better. Like my chronic pain was gone.
Wow.
My digestion was getting better. My skin was clearing up. And I was like, and I was kind of just, I wasn't really thinking about those other symptoms. I was just like, I don't want my stomach to hurt.
Right.
You know, and I kind of noticed like, I'm feeling better. I'm more positive. Like I have more energy. Like my health is turning around. That's funny. And I was like, maybe this guy's like onto something, you know? And it was kind of humbling because I was like, you know, I'm Ivy League educated. He's some burnout living in the woods. Like, what does he know? You know, but I really had to think about it. I was like, well, you know, doing what he's told me has gotten me way farther than a bunch of these doctors, you know? And so that was when the gears started to turn. And then I started to look up like more raw food things. And I think I bought a juicer because he was making green juice. And then I invested in the Vitamix and like, you know, I was buying all this produce at the store and, you know, like it was this like exciting evolution of like, my life is changing in a positive direction. And I'm like, I'm one of those like healthy eating people, which I didn't ever want to be, but like here I'm doing it and it's like really great. And this is cool. And none of my friends understood. Like everybody in my life was like, what the hell are you doing? You know, like what's gotten into you? So that was kind of the genesis of things. Yeah.
Nice. That's cool. So I wanted to ask you and so you were mentioning that DTM, you know, he's in the woods and he's talking about how you can fix this and cure that, you know, just based on a YouTube video. And I'm not sure if DTM has like an education or whatnot about it, but clearly he's learned and he's gained a lot of powerful information. And I would argue that he's a pretty smart guy. Now, earlier in the podcast, you mentioned that you are data driven. But you got to think outside the box too. You know, you can't just like be so stuck on like, if it says it there, then I only believe that, you know, like you got to think for yourself and make some changes that you hope are for the better. So I remember this post on Instagram where, oh my gosh, what's the one really skinny, juice fasting guy who was like, you can cure cancer juice fasting.
Raw Bliss.
No.
Jeff Juices.
Jeff Juices. Yes. Jeff Juices. Yes. Like he legit had a post that was like, you can cure this, you can cure that by like juicing, water fasting, whatever. And then I remember this one dude who I follow on Twitter. He's like, report this account. This is a lie. This is bullshit. Like, you can't just say this, you know, because technically speaking, shouldn't you have to like, you should be licensed or have at least some form of documentation to show that you can even say that something can be cured, use the C word. So I wanted to like kind of get your thoughts on that. Like, where do you stand in that whole realm? Because even like Dr. Morse, I'm sure obviously you're familiar with him. Like he'll even say, oh, if you have this, you go on fruit, you know, or don't get chemotherapy. It's burning you. But it's also like, what if that's your best option is to go to chemotherapy? You know, what if going the natural route does cause more issues? You know, so it's like, how do we really know what's the best option? That was a long-winded question.
Yeah.
But just not sure if you had any thoughts on that.
Sure. So I don't really like the word cure.
Yeah.
I think like reverse is a better word. Cure insinuates that you can just do this thing and then go back to doing what was killing you and
Right.
somehow not die.
Right.
I think, and also cancer is a very complex spectrum, right? And there's like progressions of it. And when you catch it earlier, it's easier to do something about it versus when you catch it later. But it's like, I mean, it's like, can you say chemotherapy cures cancer? No, not every time.
Yeah, right.
Like a lot of times it kills people. Like they die from the chemotherapy. They die from the radiation. They're weakened by the radiation. The surgery goes wrong and they die. So trying to say that like, only the pharmaceutical option is the cure is misguided. But at the same time, like saying like, oh, if you just juice fast, like that will cure it. I mean, I've seen miracles of people healing cancer and other things on juice, on raw vegan, on whole food plant-based for sure.
Yeah,
but I've
right.
also seen people not make it. And I've seen people like still have issues after doing the water fast. Like they healed a bunch of things, but they didn't heal everything. So it's easy to sit in your like little faux ivory tower on social media and say, this is the cure to all the things. But at the same time, like when you're talking about, oh, people are data-driven and evidence-based, like there's evidence of like, I healed myself. I saw that happen. I saw my body transform itself, firsthand evidence, right? AJ healed himself of all these things, right? Like that's evidence. Okay. No one published a peer-reviewed study and like followed AJ around for however long or me however long, but it's still evidence. It doesn't have to be printed in a peer-reviewed journal for me to like, it's called empirical evidence. You see it with your own eyes, right?
Yeah.
You derive it with the senses. And so that's evidence, right? Like, because we know that there's like journal bias, right? Like these journals make their money from pharmaceutical advertising dollars. So they're going to be more likely to publish pharmaceutical things and less likely to publish non-pharmaceutical interventions. So, it's very easy for people in the medical field to put their blinders on and be like, if it wasn't published in Nature or Science, like it's not science.
Right.
But things are extremely nuanced and you have to use discernment. You have to use critical thinking and judgment. But to say that anything's a cure or a fix like 100% of the time is ignorant.
Yeah.
It's I can't think of the word, but yeah, I mean, I think it's very powerful, and I think you want to exhaust conservative measures first, like eat healthier, do the juice fast, do the supervised water fast. If you still don't get results, go after the more aggressive measures. If it's going to save your life. Not everybody gets better. Most people do.
Yeah. And I feel I feel as though the community of healing can be toxic in that way, where someone is failing at trying to get healthier. They're actually, their health's going downhill, and everyone's just pointing and saying, you're doing it wrong because you didn't do herbs. You didn't, basically you didn't do it my way or the way that got me healthy. So you did it wrong. I feel like that's a really profound, ignorant thing for people to say. And I'm glad that we're all trying to like move out of that field. I even reposted that Plant Proof guy, MP, what's his name?
Yeah. Simon Hill.
Where he's like, if someone says, hey, like this is the main reason that something's wrong, he's like, just turn the other way, because there's always, a vast, there's a vast difference in individuals. And yes, we all have like similar needs. We all need to eat enough and rest and all these types of things. But at the same time, like acting like if we all take iodine, now we're all going to be healthy. It's like, there's just so many factors. I wanted to get your perspective on something, Dr. Ben. How do you, for yourself or your clients, tell the difference between healing something and avoiding the irritation? And what I mean is, some people will, cut out something and their health will come back and they'll start eating healthier. But if they introduce something back in, immediately they start to feel sick again. Do you think that is something that should just be obviously avoided, but is the underlying issue being addressed? Or should it be where you get really healthy, and if you have something like that, it doesn't really, maybe you don't feel that good, but it doesn't affect you detrimentally? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it varies person to person. Like some people can go back and eventually heal things and eventually go back to eat things that used to aggravate them. Whether that's in their best interest or not is kind of case by case basis. And some people can't. Some people just can never have that thing again. Like I would never want to go back and have energy drinks again or alcohol again. Like I was, even if I knew, I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So I think the answer is sometimes.
You know,
Like I can't, like people want black and white.
yeah.
They want
right.
the like, what, give me the bulletproof thing that works every time.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like I can give you what works 95% of the time.
Yeah.
And then the other times we
pretty
got
good.
to figure it out. Like the human body is just like nature and physiology is just complex.
Yeah, well, the reason I ask it, two reasons actually. One is the underlying condition being addressed to its full potential of healing, but also people start to work themselves into a box that they can't get themselves out of. They start to restrict so much because they can't really function outside of the restriction, and now they're so limited that they have like new challenges.
Yeah. And you know, and sometimes being stuck is really being stuck in like a perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And like sometimes the perspective is like I need to restrict and restrict and restrict and restrict. And a lot of these times people are like completely negating other aspects of health, especially their mental emotional health. And they just think the way to fix everything is to just restrict their diet more and more and like fast their way out of everything. And oh, gotta do another 28-day juice fast, you know, gotta get to the next level, guys. You know, and that within itself is being stuck in a perspective.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and it's kind of sad to see people do that. And I feel like the only way to get out of that is just to keep eating and whatever that person thinks is healthy, you know. Even if it is animal products, I think like you got to just keep going because it's not good to be in that kind of state. I mean, I've been there, AJ. I'm sure you've been there before, and it's almost scary, but yeah. So cool. Yeah, thanks for your thoughts there on all that, Dr. Ben. And sort of while we're on the topic here, why don't we get into the true North healing stuff? Would love to hear. Were you a patient there, or did you work there at a time?
I interned there for 3 months. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you want to share some of the experiences that you had and saw some of the doctors
Sure.
that you've connected with? Like, we'd love to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I was there like last quarter of 2016, which was kind of the golden age of the whole place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was right, like they were filming What the Health while I was there.
Oh, cool.
Like I knew who Kip and Keegan were because I had seen with their first movie, Cowspiracy, and thought it was kind of cool. And I remember like a couple of the people that were like transformation stories in the movies were like patients of mine while I was there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so that was really cool. Saw a lot of crazy stuff. And you know, got to study under Dr. Clapper. Like every Wednesday morning, he would like take you around and do rounds on all the patients and then just like quiz the shit out of you. And like he was, man, okay, like, all right, so I guess this is being recorded, but there are 2 Dr. Clappers, just so you know. There's like the one you know on the internet who's like, I'm happy Dr. Clapper. Eat your fruits and vegetables. And then there's Dr. Clapper who teaches the interns like it's medical school in 1974. And just like lays into you, asks you these like really tough questions. Then when you can't figure out the answer, he just like needles you. And he was like making some of the interns cry and like he just busts your balls. I remember he was like, we're looking over this patient's blood work, and he's like, well, what's going on here? It's like, well, you know, their AST, ALT, like liver enzymes are elevated. And he's like, well, what does that mean? And I was like, well, the liver is just hemorrhaging enzymes. And he's like, you know, he's got a hearing aid, so he's like, acts like he can't hear you. Like, excuse me, what? Like hemorrhaging? Did you say the liver is hemorrhaging enzymes? And he's like, okay, let's talk about the Latin word hemorrhage. It means to internally bleed. Is the liver bleeding then? No. Okay. So what's going on? Because you said hemorrhaging, and if you talk to someone who's a medical doctor, you're going to sound like you're an idiot. So what's going on here? And so he would just like, ugh. Like,
that's kind of
Like,
good though. That's kind of good.
Like he just wanted everybody who was an intern there to like come out of there like knowing their stuff, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, the dude was hardcore. I remember I would get up early, and I remember one time I came down to the gym at like 6:15, and the dude is there on the recumbent bike with his headphones on, and he's like doing weights while like riding the thing, you know. And I was just like, this dude works out like hardcore, you know.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So he was awesome. I mean, that was really an experience. And then of course, Dr. Goldhamer's there, and you know, Dr. Doug Lyle is coming every Sunday. And you know, I remember like the first day I was there, T. Colin Campbell was like sitting having lunch with Goldhamer.
Wow.
And like, oh, it's Colin Campbell's here. Like, of course, you know, like it's the plant-based Dr. All-Star show. And I was like, oh, I really want to go say hi to him. And then I was like, nah, he's kind of like having lunch. Like, I'll just, you know, I don't want to bother him. Like, it's True North. Like, he just pops in and out all the time. And then of course that was like the only time he was there. But then I got to thinking there, like, no, he lives in New York. It's not like he just comes to True North once a week. Like, I missed my opportunity to like introduce myself. And I was like kicking myself about that. Yeah. And so saw like a lot of crazy, you know, things with people fasting, crazy, you know, healing stories, crazy detox things that happened of like, I remember this one guy, there's a couple of Sjogren's patients who had like really crazy things. So Sjogren's is this autoimmune disease where the immune system attacks your tear ducts and your salivary glands. Your teeth rot out and you go blind. It sucks. Wow. And so this one guy, they put him on, he was on too much medication of water fasting, so they put him on juice. And I was the intern. I would go around every morning and like take everybody's blood pressure and check on them and all that stuff. And I remember I came and checked on the guy, and he's there with his wife, and she's like, I don't know what's going on with him. He's acting totally, he's talking funny. He's acting weird. Like, you better check on him. And I check on him, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And taking his blood pressure. And he's like, I'm like, what? He's like, like pointing to his ear. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I look, and like, there's like earwax just like coming out to the point of like, it's just like dripping down the side of his face, like just overflowing.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And so I like call the attending doc. I'm like, you got to get down here. Like, I don't know what this guy's earwax is like out of control.
Oh my God.
And they come over, and so like he brings his like medical tools, and it's like I never learned how to. Yeah. I don't know what to do here, you know. And it's like getting all the earwax out, and the guy's like, "Oh, okay, finally I could hear," like, because he couldn't talk because he couldn't hear, right, you know. And he just had this crazy like detox reaction, and like just like detoxed everything out his ears.
That's insane.
Wild.
Yeah. And so like they I think they kept him going for a little while longer, just monitor him. He did like 10 days on juice and then refed, and he was good. And then they like he reversed it. And then they had another guy with Sjogren's who was doing a water fast, and he was having like a really hard time. And he would getting all these like stomach issues. So he was like, you could get this like fizzy water, and I would go make him fizzy water, and then you complain to me that it wasn't fizzy enough, and I'm like, dude, come on, quit busting my balls. And it was like he was supposed to go for 20 days, and around day 11 or 12, I come in, and he's like lying on the side of his bed, and he's got a bucket next to the bed, and he's just spitting into the bucket. And I'm like, what's going on? How you doing? He's like, oh man, I couldn't sleep. Like, I was up all night spitting. And I was like, what are you doing spitting? He's like, my saliva is just like, it tastes so bad that I can't hold it in my mouth. It like burns my mouth. It's like just horrible tasting, and like it burns, and I can't keep it in my mouth. And then so I was just up all night spitting, and like, I'm out of, can you get me more water? And like, I'm just dying over here. And I'm like, do you want to stop the fast? He's like, no, I don't want to stop the fast. Like, I got to heal this.
Right.
And so it's like a day or two more of just spitting and like not sleeping because he's just like miserable, just spitting into a can all day. And I come in one day and he's got like a washcloth in his mouth. And he's like, Ben, I found something out. Like if I just have this washcloth and just keep like spit, then I don't have to keep spitting into a bucket and I could actually sleep. And so he's like, it's like, spends the rest of like another 7 days just like washcloth in his mouth to finish the fast. And then like day like 18 or 19, everything clears. He gets the white tongue and they decide to break the fast on juice. And yeah, it like he healed it. He like had to soldier through just like this whole like detox saliva thing. But that's how it came out of him. So one guy came out his ear hole, the other guy came out his mouth. It's like you hear these crazy detox stories, but when you see them in person, it's a whole nother thing.
That's insane.
That's wild. How long were you interning there?
3 months.
For about 3 months.
Oh, you said 3 months. Okay. I was wondering if you could clear up the timeline for me. So like you find DTM, how, like what happens in between there? Did you become a doctor because of your health stuff, or how did all that unfold? You were already going to medical school?
No. So I worked as an engineer for a semiconductor company, spreadsheet jockey, that kind of stuff. And then when I had the whole health issue, and it was right around the time I turned 30, and I just, when you're eating raw foods, it's like you're forced to like feel all these emotions, and like a lot of stuff comes up to be dealt with. And I just realized like I wasn't happy doing what I was doing at all. Like, even though the money was great and like the job was pretty good, like I had it pretty cush. But we were like making, microchips that went into TVs in Japan. And then like, I remember at one point I was sitting in a room and basically we were having these meetings to go over like the forecast of like, okay, what microchips are we going to sell and what do we need to build and like for the next year, kind of planning everything. And these guys come in and like, oh, we just got back from Beijing and we just closed this new deal. We're going to make a ton of money. We're using this chip that we designed back in 1997. And this was like 2011, 12 at the time. Like, and we can manufacture it for 5 cents. And we're going to sell it to them for $1.05. We're going to make like 95% profit margin. And it's going into these blood sugar meters. Okay. And here's the good news. We looked at the forecast. The diabetes market is exploding, right? And we're going to be selling like millions of dollars of this stuff. And we're just be making money hand over fist, right? And everyone's like, yeah, this is awesome. Oh my God, amazing. And I'm like, it's like Twilight Zone, because everybody like thinks they're doing a good thing with like the diabetes market is exploding. We're going to sell blood sugar meters. And it's like, but if we just sold them mangoes, sorry, AJ, if we just sold them vegetables, like they would get better, right? But let's make the millions selling the blood sugar meters because we're doing a good thing in technology. And I was just like, that was like, it was like, man, I can't keep doing this. Like, I got to get out of here. Right? I figure something else out. And I remember the movie Forks Over Knives had come out around that time. And I watched that and I was just like, wow, like there are these people there that are doctors, but they're not like, doing the normal doctor thing. They're like taking you to Whole Foods and teaching you how to like eat vegan, right? Eat plant-based. I was like, I didn't know that was a job. That was like a thing that you could do, right? But I was like, I want to do that. I'm going to figure out a way to do that. And awesome. I was like, I'm smart. I got a science background, like I can like, man, like I could, with 5 brain cells and knowing what I know, I could do a better job than all these doctors who just kind of gave me the runaround, Yeah. And so I just started like looking into it and I was like, okay, well, medical school, I got to take this MCAT and then I got to spend like 45 years of that. And then I got to do a specialty And like, I got, and it was just like all this drugs and surgery to like leave and go out and say, I don't do drugs and surgery, fruits and vegetables. Like, it was just sort of like, I'm going to invest that much time and money into something that I don't really like to not do it, just to have the letters in front of my name. And so then I like learned about, there's naturopath, right? And I was like, oh, okay, like I'll do that. And I started looking into that. And it turns out that like I was living in Austin, Texas. So it was like, well, naturopaths aren't licensed in Austin, Texas. Like you can't really practice. And I was like, what's the point of that? Right. And I was like, and so then I was reading all of the like Herbert Shelton and Doug Graham and all this stuff. And like all these guys who did natural hygiene and fasting were all chiropractors. And I was like, well, that's what I want to do. So let's do it, and just practice as like a de facto naturopath. So
nice.
So went to chiropractic school, and I was like, well, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do it where the fruit's good. So I went to LA, which was awesome decision. I went there for school. And then I remember like second semester, like Alan Goldhamer showed up and gave a talk, and I like fanboyed out. Like I was like following him in the parking lot, like asking him questions. And he's like, well, you should come intern at my clinic. And I was like,
you sound just like him. That was a good impression.
He was like, you should come intern at my clinic. And I was like, oh, how do I do that? He's like, well, I think for your last semester, if you just fill out the paperwork, you can just come and like live at TrueNorth for a semester, and you don't have to take class, and you just like hang out and like, help me out. And I was like, really? And so that was like my life mission from the next 2-3 years. It was like, get the things out of the way so you can live the 3 months at TrueNorth. And I was like, I'm doing it,
That's awesome.
So that was kind of how that all happened.
How was it working with Alan Goldhamer?
I mean, I didn't really work with him too much. He's sort of like, there's layers in between the interns and him of like other doctors. And I mean, like you get to hang out with him. I remember like, because I had to do a certain amount of adjustments. He was like, well, let's see what your skills are. Why don't you adjust me? And then, so I'm like, I'm adjusting him, and he gets off the table, and he's like, wow, I've been chiropracted.
Dude, I love Goldhamer. He's awesome.
I mean, what you see on like whatever you see in an interview, like that's how he acts 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen the talk by Doug Lyle, The Perfect Personality, or no? And it's all about Alan Goldhamer, basically.
I think I saw him give lectures about something like that.
It was basically like how to follow this diet to a T and get the results and never wane and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no one will do it. Only a strange person like Alan Goldhamer can actually follow through and like make that his priority.
Yeah.
It was a good talk.
What are your thoughts on his SOS diet? Like, do you think it's sustainable for people, or do you think it just, once again, it's just sort of individualized? Like some people might be able to do it, but others can't,
Yeah. I mean, like anybody can do it.
Right. I'm saying like had the actual capacity to like enjoy it and want to do it,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, people got to make decisions of like what's best for them and like what's going to work in their life. But like, I think it's pretty sustainable, and like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I just think it's tough because like it restricts you from a lot. Like you can't even go out to eat, or if you do go out to eat, you got to like bring your own food, Yeah. And I do think that like just enjoying a nice meal with people out and about, it's nice on occasion, even if the food isn't the healthiest, or it's high in PUFA, which I don't mind. I'm just joking.
I'm curious where you come down on salt, because there's, people think it's the worst thing ever. Some people like McDougall say it can be good and necessary. What are your thoughts on it, or what is your reaction if you do have it?
I think I'm not as strict as he is on it. I think for a lot of older people who are like, their blood pressure is very salt sensitive, probably a good idea to cut it out. I think for people who tend to overeat, you salt the food, you tend to overeat it. Like I don't have a problem of overeating. I have a problem of like, or used to have a problem of eating the wrong things. Like, like, there's no way I'm going to gain weight, like just eating whole food, plant-based, like too much of the food. Like my metabolism just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And I really don't think that's like somebody to be concerned about for really anybody. It's like, it's maybe because they're eating salt, and then it's just like, it kind of triggers this food addiction, whatever in them, and then they want to go eat other unhealthier things, and it becomes like a gateway drug for them. Because
And I think it's problematic when people are adding it, because the ratios are always changing, and then they add too much and they have to add more food, or they have to drink. Like, it throws off the balance. Personally, what I like to do is add foods that already have the salt, so I don't have to do the mental gymnastics of adding the right amount. Like, I'll add olives, I'll add, kimchi and whatever. But
Yeah.
MP, I know MP is going to love this question because we talk about it all the time. Where do you come down on refined sugar? Is sugar sugar? You have durian riders of the world who are like, if you don't add white sugar to your smoothie, you have an eating disorder, or if you don't add it to your white rice. I personally think there's a huge difference between an apple and sugar, processed sugar, or even in white rice and an apple. But I know a lot of people think there's no difference because they're carbs, because they're all 4 calories per gram. So where do you come down on that?
Yeah, I think refined sugar's bad news. I think it's pro-inflammatory. I think fruit's amazing. Eat as much of that as you can. I think if you do have to add refined sugar to your like rice or your fruit or whatever, then you have an eating disorder, honestly. So I guess I would say the opposite of what Durian Rider says. And there was a time when he wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
There was a time, prior to 2013, he wasn't doing that. And he was getting great results. So it's, it's like easy to, and I see, I don't follow a lot of people that do it, but I've seen some pretty crazy things where these young kids are like adding sugar to their smoothies and like, why am I getting fat? I don't get it. And this sort of like macronutrient worship concept of like, well, as long as it's a carb, I remember like, I hadn't seen a Durian Rider video in a long time. And then someone was showing me like, he's drinking Sprite now. Did you know this? And it's like, it's fruit in a can, mate. Like, what? It's just like, because all the low carb people are like worshiping fat and saying like, oh, as long as you get the right type of fat, you can eat all fat and like no carbs. And then so he's just doing the opposite of like macronutrient worship of carbs. Like, doesn't matter if it's Sprite or white sugar or whatever, just get your carbs in, mate. It's like not going to work for people who actually have legitimate, disease conditions.
Right.
Yeah.
So
one of my personal examples that I experienced was like, he was, because I was a big Harley guy back in the day. And I remember I'd have a banana smoothie, feel amazing. And then he's like, add sugar. And I'd add it. And I didn't like how it tasted. I thought it didn't taste as good and also felt worse. So then at one point, I think this was like a few years ago, it was when I started talking to MP. We were talking about like the no difference thing. And I'm like, well, if I put sugar onto like my oatmeal, my teeth actually hurt. But if I add fruit to it, my teeth don't hurt. And do you think that, because you said they're pro-inflammatory, do you think it probably has something to do with like the low enzyme activity? Like what makes it pro-inflammatory from your understanding?
I think what happens is that it's just the glycemic load. Like you get too much sugar into the bloodstream at once and it causes an insulin spike. And that sets off an inflammatory cascade. Gotcha. Whereas with fruit, the fiber slows the absorption. It goes into the bloodstream at a normal rate. You never have an insulin spike. You never have a blood sugar spike.
Now, what would be your thoughts on if someone really is trying to do like maybe like a mainly raw vegan diet and they want to eat fruit, but the fruit might not be good quality or it's like too expensive. Would you? I mean, I'm sure you probably wouldn't recommend someone like adding sugar to their fruit, but like even still here in Pittsburgh, like I've gotten like some grapes, some oranges, and like I'm not gonna lie, like it wasn't the sweetest fruit I've ever had, and I think Durian Rider would argue, he would say like when out in nature, like the fruit would be like super sweet, it would taste amazing, like you wouldn't want to throw it away, so but nowadays I feel like the quality, I don't want to say it's going downhill, but I feel like it's just it's not as good. I mean, like obviously you will get some decent quality fruit. I mean, I have some bananas back here, perfect ripeness. I'm gonna eat them after our talk here. So like, would you just say like don't eat the fruit, or if you are like maybe someone who is an athlete, would you even say, hey, it's fine if you add, even if it is like a healthy sugar? What if it's like agave or maple syrup or something like that? But it's also, yeah. So I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on that or what your thoughts are.
I guess you're asking me, like, is there an instance when I would say, okay, it's okay to add refined sugar? No, I don't think so.
Uh-huh.
I would advise one of two things. Number one, like if you live in a place where the fruit sucks, move to where it's good. Like,
Yeah.
like if you take your health seriously, honestly, and if
Right.
this is something you really want for your life, like live somewhere you can actually do it.
Mhm.
Because like, I don't know, that might seem like, for some people it might seem more rational to just add sugar to their food versus
Mhm.
like live in a place where they can get access to healthy food.
Mhm.
Or the other option is just like switch to like sweet potatoes or rice or something instead. But yeah, I can't think of an instance where I'd be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, add sugar to your, no.
Yeah, right. Cool.
Love it. Where do you come down on the minerals with like whether it's greens or adding minerals? Have you ever experimented with that kind of thing? Because for me, that was the big change, was when I started like, yes, have like fruits and stuff, but really have the green juice and the salads and maybe avocados too.
Yeah, I mean, big fan of vegetables. I'm not like, I don't think like individual mineral supplementation is necessarily something that I think is like necessary. Or like, you know, a sort of like, yeah, like, I don't know, there's a bunch of concoctions out there and people selling whatever. But yeah, like leafy greens and super important, green juice. I'm a big fan of. I think there's a lot of things in the plant-based community, especially among the doctors, who say like, oh, don't juice, it's bad for you, blah, blah, blah. But then they're, you know, having people eat like, you know, like McDougal's got like, you know, dessert recipes with added sugar, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
So
a friend of mine would always make these McDougal meals, but he would use like a cup of cashews with his pasta. I'm like, when I ate it, it was like a brick in my stomach. I'm like, how's this a McDougal meal? McDougal's like starch. What is this?
And so, and McDougal's more geared towards the older generation that are mainly dealing with just like, you know, diabetes and heart stuff. And the younger generation's getting hit by the autoimmune stuff, which we can talk about why that is. That's a longer conversation.
Yeah.
And for them, like just the McDougal stuff is just not going to cut it on be able to detox all the toxicity that's, you know, wound up in their body.
Right. Yeah, because I feel like, I mean, AJ and I mentioned this on the actually episode that just came out 7 minutes ago. AJ did mention that that McDougal doesn't really even, he says like have like a piece of true fruit. He's like not for the fruit at all. But like one could probably say like, hey, McDougal, you probably look like you could use a piece of fruit, you know? And AJ always says like you could use a green juice.
Yeah,
fresh food.
Yeah.
But you know, it also works well these crotchety old people who want to change their diet, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's like, oh, I can't get people to do that. I can't get people to eat fruit. I can't, you know, it's like, okay, you know, like what he can get people to do works for them to reverse diabetes and heart disease. But for the more complex stuff, it's just not going to cut the mustard. But then it's like, you know, I have conversations with people, you know, and they're like, you know, on the verge of getting their colon cut out. And I ask them straight to their face, I'm like, if I put together a diet plan for you that was all fruits and vegetables, could you dedicate yourself 100% to doing it? And I literally get people go, oh, I don't know. I mean, I really like my meat, or like I need my protein. It's like, look, if we're having this conversation, you're coming to me that you're like almost having your colon cut out, and I'm making you recommendations and you're waffling and whether you can stick to them. Like, I can't help you.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah. So you said that there's a reason for all these autoimmune diseases. Like, where do you come down on what's causing them, or what's your response to them?
Well, you know, I think it's multifactorial. I think there's a lot of stuff. So can I plug my book?
Please.
So this is a preprint version of my book, nice. Create Health, Reverse Autoimmune Diseases Without Drugs, Their Side Effects, coming June, I think.
Nice. That's awesome.
Go to createhealthbook.com for more information. I think it's multifactorial, but I think a lot of it is toxicity load.
Well, you hear
and
that thrown around a lot. Like a lot of people will always say toxins, you got to fast. Can you explain like what you mean by the toxins? Environmental, in the food, like what's going on?
So environmental, like obviously, pollutants in the air, pollutants in the water, this glyphosate stuff that's being sprayed all over everything, is new to the environment from 1996. Like you're probably like a few years old when that stuff started getting out of the food. You've basically been eating it your entire life, right? Yeah. And so this older generation, like they weren't exposed to any of that before 1950. All food was organic, right? And the other thing, and this is the controversial thing, is that the vaccination schedule has exploded since 1986. Okay. I was born in 1981. I probably got about 10 vaccines. Y'all were born in like the early to mid 90s. You probably got 40, 50. Okay. Each one of those has adjuvants, aluminum, mercury, polysorbate 80, all these other things. They've been injected in your body. Okay. At a young age, you think you had the detoxification capability to get rid of that stuff at that age? You kidding me? And that's why we're seeing this explosion of autoimmune disease, especially in the younger population. It's not affecting, it's affecting the old people, but not nearly as much because they didn't get shot up with nearly as much toxins. Okay.
And what happens when we get some of these chemicals into our system? Like what's the body's, how is it responding? Or how is it affecting the body? I'm not sure. I don't.
Yeah. We have a plethora of autoimmune disease and chronic conditions that, used to be 1 in 10,000. Now it's 1 in 10, 1 in 7. So it's like how it's affecting us. We don't really know, but we can see the results epidemiologically for sure. And so like, this was one of the things that with Dr. Avi, we were debating on. And I was like, look, you look at the clinical trial. It's like everybody who got the 3 Gardasil shots within 6 months, 2.3% of them developed an autoimmune disease. Okay. Like that's, and he's like, oh, well, the number's higher in the population. It's like, if 2.3% of everybody developed an autoimmune disease every 60 days, like we'd be saturated. Everyone would have an autoimmune disease within like 5 or 6 years. So like the data is hiding in plain sight. And so, yeah, when we talk about detox, it's like all that stuff's in our system and like our body can detoxify it out. It's just a matter of providing it the right conditions to do so.
And what are those conditions?
Those are the conditions of like eating fruits and vegetables, getting enough sleep, exercising, mindfulness. The diet's the big thing. I'm not really a fan of like the detox herbs. I think that's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down of why that's a bad idea. And I have people come to me every month of like, oh, I took a bunch of detox herbs and now I have gallstones. What do I do? But I think, the body has the capability to detoxify itself if you eat a healthy enough diet for the most part. Maybe you got to fast if it's really bad.
I've heard of, or I've been shown, I don't know if these are real because I haven't done the research, but like some of these things that are getting into us, these chemicals or these metals or aluminums, they're kind of like shaped like a spiky ball and they get into our tissue. And it's like, how could you even like get something like that out?
Yeah.
Because it seems as though when stuff is lodged, it's like, I feel as though there's certain types of therapies maybe that could get it out, but it seems really hard to just, eat a certain way and then that stuff gets freed up, especially like in the brain.
Yeah. Brain's a really tough one. Yeah, for sure. Like autism, like that stuff's bioaccumulating in the brain, and the problem is that, if you look at the data, something like a Wi-Fi router, cell phone, that radiation, when your brain's exposed to enough of it, actually opens the blood-brain barrier. And so that toxicity that's in your bloodstream is getting in your brain.
Similar to like a leaky gut sort of comparison? Like,
yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I would love to talk about EMF and Wi-Fi if you're down.
Yeah.
Or you come out because, my first experience with this was I started turning off my Wi-Fi just to save power in my house. And I noticed that when I did it, I dreamt like really deep that night. And then I found Dan McDonald, I think the next week or something. And he's like, turn off your, it was a video about cancer. And he's like, turn off your Wi-Fi at night and your dreams will come back. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. But like, I feel as though it's almost like an impossible task to avoid Wi-Fi, obviously, but what are some of the ways do you try to minimize it, or what do you prevent yourself like from, do you use AirPods? Do you keep away from that?
Oh, I definitely don't use AirPods. I definitely turn off the Wi-Fi. Like I look at the Wi-Fi like a faucet. Like when I need to use it, I turn it on. Otherwise, I turn it off.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's a utility. And so for me, I noticed that when I minimized my use of EMF stuff, like my anxiety I was experiencing diminished drastically. And so I think it does have a toxic effect. We're swimming in a soup of it, and it's like undetectable to human senses, but I think the data is already out there. There's a guy, Professor Russ Whitty, University of Arizona, who's like studied like the effects of EMFs on humans. I mean, there's like 20,000 published studies on this stuff going back to like World War I to show that it's harmful. It's just that like people don't want to believe it. The industry and the FCC have a lot of power to make people think that like, all this stuff is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And another thing is that I worked in the telecommunications industry. I worked in the semiconductor industry. It's like, we didn't do human safety testing. Like for a drug, you have to human safety test it. If we made a microchip that like emitted, like we made smart meter chips. Okay. The smart meters are one of the most toxic things. Like if you have those in your house, you want to get switched out for like a regular meter.
Yeah.
And so did we ever test our chips to see if they affected humans? No, we didn't have to. There was no regulation around it. Why would there be? So a lot of these things are getting brought to market, and it's like, we never tested it because we never had to, and we really don't understand fully the effects of it. But the human organism is, mechanical, chemical, and electrical, right? Like we have this brain and this nervous system, and it shoots information via electromagnetic waves. And so if there's a bunch of background electromagnetic radiation hitting it, it's throwing off its ability to self-regulate.
Does it interfere with communication between cells? Would you think?
I would imagine so. I mean, like, we've studied a lot of these things. There's something called the Bioinitiative report that's like tallied like every single study on how EMFs affect humans and at what at what intensity and then what health effect it's had. So mechanistically, do we understand why it's happening? Not as much. Like, do we understand exactly how toxicity is causing autoimmune disease or chronic disease? No, but we know that like it is.
Right.
So
do you buy into any of the stuff that says it protects you? Like people get certain paints on their walls, people use the pyramid things, shungite, all these types of stuff. Do you buy into any of that, or you just try to avoid it as much as you can?
I'm not so sure on that stuff. I feel like there's a lot like, oh, I just put a sticker on my cell phone, and no, come on. Yeah. If you can still make and receive calls, the sticker ain't doing anything for you.
Right.
Let's be honest. Right.
Right. Well, I had one of those meters to test things, and my phone was higher than the smart meter. I don't know if it's a different type where it penetrates you in a different way, but my phone was giving off like 100 more of whatever the measurement was than the smart meter, which is pretty crazy.
Interesting. I mean, the smart meter is like a focused beam towards like the front of the house. So they put the meter on the back of the house and then it shoots to the front.
Yeah. Interesting story. I lived at this place in 2015 and I went there. As soon as I moved in, I started falling asleep at 7, 8 o'clock at night. I was just so relaxed. I was reading for the first time in years. And then I moved away, came back. I moved in there again in 2020. And I'm like, I'm anxious. I like, don't feel comfortable here. MP's been there. And, it turns out they had implanted. I mean, they installed some smart meters right below where I was living. I was like, I wonder if that's why.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard similar stories of we don't really.
But it's tricky because like these cabal people and all the conspiracy people, I feel as though they make it to where people don't believe any of it because they throw out so many like claims that like everyone's just like, that's a fucking joke. Come on.
Yeah. No, totally. And I think a lot of that stuff is like purposefully put out there to discredit people who like actually have evidence to show that like this stuff's harmful. Right. And then it's easy to marginalize like, oh, you don't believe in vaccination, so you must also be a Trump supporting like capital insurrectionist, gun toting, right wing, like whatever. And so it's easy, like marginalized people are, oh, you must believe in flat earth too, huh?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, let's have independent discussions of each of these things and, go from there.
Right.
People can't do it. They can't do it.
No,
They
critical
have to lump
thought,
everything
nuance,
together.
Yeah, they're all they're like
listening to
one
an
way
hour
or
and
the
a half
other.
podcast, forget it.
So do you guys want to step away from this EMF stuff?
Yeah.
We all
Yeah,
good
you
there?
can transition you.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would just a couple more questions. Yeah, I just want to hear, like, if you could tell everyone, like, what you eat on a daily basis. I know, like, I see a lot of your stories, and I pretty much know what you eat. But for those who don't, and for those who are listening, so they would like to hear exactly sort of what you eat in a day. And if
Okay,
there's like
sure.
certain time periods that you eat too, like if you do practice intermittent fasting at all, if you don't, I would love to hear that as well.
Sure. I'll give you the rundown. I mean, I don't really call it anything. I guess a fruit-based diet is the best thing. I don't practice intermittent fasting. I'm more of like a natural hygiene mentality of like, I'm going to eat when I'm hungry.
Okay.
I'm going to not eat when I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
I really don't try to like put a bunch of control over my eating. I feel like that gets into like disordered behavior. I stick to plants, man, and it's a ton of fruit. I live in Arizona, so there's a lot of like good local stuff right now. It's mulberry season, and so I've just been like,
so you're
like
picking
crazy. We got
oh, dude, how good are they?
Favorite. Yeah.
They're just so good, man. Pakistani
that's awesome.
variety mulberries, like just, oh, look at that.
It looks so good.
It's like literally dripping juice.
Wow. Dude, I love dried mulberries. They're unbelievable. I don't know why I don't buy them more. I'm
They're
ridiculous.
expensive as hell.
They are.
Like $7 a pound or something.
Picking them is like meditative. Like that's like the most meditative experience, like picking them and eating them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a bit like, I literally like block off Wednesday mornings in the 4 weeks of mulberry season so I can go pick. It's like weekends picking, Wednesday mornings picking, because the trees regenerate about every 3 days.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, I'm gonna get as many of these things as I can get.
Heck yeah, man.
So I do like high water fruit for breakfast. So like mulberries right now, a few weeks ago it was citrus. I was getting all this, I know like a gajillion trees out here, and I have friends that let me pick. I haven't paid for an orange or a grapefruit in years.
Are they actually
That's
sweet?
awesome.
Are they really sweet? Or are they acidic?
It varies, but I know where the good ones are at.
So you don't add sugar to those oranges?
No. I mean, sometimes what I'll do is like, if I get some grapefruits that are on the tart side, I'll juice like 50-50 cara oranges, grapefruit, something like that. But
yeah, dude, I love grapefruit juice. It's so good.
Oh yeah.
Dude, it's unbelievable. I love it.
One of my favorite things.
Yeah. And I know you do big salads in the evening, right? For the most part.
Yeah, big salads. I typically do like lunch. I do like a big green smoothie, usually fill the whole Vitamix, bunch of bananas, half a head of greens, maybe some mangoes, some blueberries, whatever. Maybe use coconut water instead of regular water. But yeah, that's like a mainstay. Like I gotta have people are like, how do you have banana smoothies every day? I'm like, dude, I have to have it every day. Like it's not right if I don't have my giant green smoothie.
Right.
I don't use any powders. The only things I supplement are vitamin D3 and vitamin B12. I recently got a testosterone panel about like a month or two ago. I had a 653 and my free was like 10.3. So like high numbers, good. I'm 40 years old. I thought the numbers were really good.
Dude. Good for you.
Yeah. Typically big salad in the evening. And then the cooked foods I eat are generally like rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes, squash. The only legumes I really eat are split peas. And then, like occasionally like steamed vegetables, stuff like that.
Nice.
Broccoli, carrots, sweet potatoes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you don't really like hold yourself to like, oh, I only do raw food. I don't do any cooked food. So that's cool to hear because I do believe that those cooked plant foods are beneficial in the diet.
Yeah. I mean, I did eat 100% raw for like 3+ years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to TrueNorth and it was like just not going to fly. And I was like, oh, uh-oh, because I was asymptomatic, like I was good. I was like really afraid that if I like had cooked food again, everything is come raging back. And I think in that time I had healed or whatever, and I went back and I was like, oh, okay, like I can handle this. This is good. I don't feel any different. Like my energy didn't come down. So I was like, wow, all right, I guess I can handle it. So that was kind of nice, even though it was scary at the time. And so yeah, but I mean, I think there's definitely like a time and place to a raw vegan diet for sure.
I think even Chef AJ we had on, she was saying that like she healed on that diet and then she went to eat on whole food plant-based to like sustainability and stuff and taste and try to like maintain more weight. Are you someone who counted calories in the past? You just listen to your body, you go by satisfaction? You know, do you feel as though you counted calories before, so now you kind of know your range, or do you worry about calories at all?
I definitely counted calories in the beginning because I was dealing with a lot of like, you know, cravings for pizza and stuff again. And it's like, okay, if I found that if I ate a lot of food, that the cravings would be easier to kind of overcome. And so I think that's important to like make sure that you're eating enough food for sure, especially in the beginning. You now have a sense of what they are. And now it's just like, I just have good habits for so long. That's like, I can go, like if I miss a meal or whatever, like I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to go like binge out on unhealthy food. So I just kind of eat, you know, what I'm feeling like. I don't count calories and I don't worry about like getting enough or too much. Like it'll all even out. I've maintained the same weight for several years. My energy's good. I work out 4 to 5 days a week. So I just kind of have it on autopilot, but that's after, 10, 11 years of doing this stuff.
Yeah, I think that's most people's goal, to get it to where it's comfortable and it's not like a struggle to use your willpower, right? You want it to be like enjoyable and feel good while you're doing it. Sounds like you've mastered that.
Yeah, one thing I teach people is like willpower is finite. Like don't be reliant on that. Like create systems, create habits, to make it easy for yourself so that you don't have to use willpower, because that's going to run out. Like I don't have a lot of willpower,
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So so do you prefer to, I know you mentioned working out. What time of day do you like to work out? Have you noticed any differences in like the timing if you work out different parts of the day?
I really got to do it early first thing.
Okay.
Because otherwise, like it's not happening schedule wise.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is that like I work out outside, I do calisthenics, and so
I see. I love it.
In the summer in Arizona, like a little past sunrise, it's just too damn hot. Like I'll burn my hands on the bars. So I got to get out there like a little before dawn and get it done and get out of there.
Right.
And it's just easier for me. It's like if I can just like get out of bed and just like I have the clothes all laid out, I just grab my water bottle, get in the car, listen to my affirmations on the way, hit it first thing, and then it's just like my brain's like actually awake,
Right.
So otherwise it's just the morning just doesn't go as well.
Mm-hmm. Cool. It's awesome to hear. Hey, I have one more question.
So you thrive on routine? Do you like having a routine and a structure?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. Yeah. Me too.
Same. Yeah, I would definitely say I do too. Even though AJ, he'll be like, "Oh, I don't even know you like routine." I'm like, dude, I really do like it. Even though like I like being able to adjust and adapt, because you have to be able to do that in society. You can't like, what are you gonna do? Oh, if I don't go to bed at this time, I'm screwed. Like, no, you got to be able to do that. But no, I definitely do better with routine and schedule. I just have one more question. I mean, I have plenty more, but I think it's a great time to start wrapping up here. I have one more question. Then AJ, if you have any final questions or thoughts. I totally forgot you are a comedian. So I would love to hear I'd love to hear a joke or two, or if it's like if you feel comfortable doing that. I don't know if I don't know how you go about it. If you have like certain jokes, or if you just tell stories or whatnot. But if you want to share some of that stuff, that'd be cool.
I actually didn't know that about you. That's cool.
Yeah, sure. I do stand up on stage, so it doesn't really hit as well like in person or like just on Zoom or like
right.
Like I'm in a group and like tell a joke, right? It's not the same. I would say if you want to go, I don't know if you guys know this, but I did comedy routines at Woodstock back in the day.
No. Are you gonna get
What?
back? You got to come back.
Oh yeah, well, I was talking to Jeanette the other day, and she's like, you got to come back and do, like, be a speaker and do comedy and stuff. And I was like, maybe, but anyway, yeah, if you go on YouTube and look up like Ben's comedy routine Woodstock, I did like this whole Durian Rider impression.
You're the Durian Rider guy? No shit, I've watched that. That's
okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you killed it, dude. You fucking killed it.
Wait, I gotta pull it up. I remember to
I'm
watch
gonna watch
later.
it after this. I've seen it. I didn't know that was you. I had no clue that was you.
Where
Yeah,
That's awesome.
That's so funny.
oh yeah, I would say look it up on YouTube. It's gonna be funnier than me just like telling it to you now.
Yeah, right.
We'll look it up. We'll post it a link in the show notes and whatever.
That's so awesome. Here we go. Is it Benjamin Benulis's comedy routine at the Woodstock Free Festival Talent Show? That one?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I did it in 12, 13, and 14, but I think 12 was the original Durian Rider impression.
Okay.
Nice.
That is so cool.
That's hilarious. I forgot you even went to Woodstock.
Yeah, it's been too long, man.
Why'd you stop going?
Back, but it's just been tough to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it could definitely be tough. Well, this one's going to be awesome. I mean, the last one was awesome. And for me, every year gets better, for sure. Looking forward to this year.
Yeah, totally, AJ. No, I feel the same way. I'm really excited for this year's Woodstock Free Festival. So
cool. Okay. I mean, I have one last question for Dr. Ben. Obviously, you know this better than MP and I, but there's a lot of people out there and a lot of people who are really confused. They're really sick. They're suffering. They don't know where to start. They're overwhelmed. No one around them supporting them. Maybe they live in a shitty environment where the food isn't as good. Like you said, maybe they need to move, but like, where are these people like supposed to find hope in this, in this world where we're swimming in a soup of EMF toxicity, negative people and habits? I mean, it can almost feel so overwhelming that they don't think they stand the chance. I don't think they realize how much opportunity to heal is actually out there. Could you speak on that?
I think that, it seems like this like daunting problem, like this fortress you got to break into. And it's like, oh, I got to do all this stuff. I got to eat raw vegan and I got to meditate and I got to turn off my Wi-Fi and I got to not be on my phone too much. And I got to, work out this much. And I got to, it's like colossal amounts of change supposedly required. And I think that that can seem very daunting. And I think that you really got to just start with like sustainable habits, changes that you can make. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna for breakfast, I'm only gonna do fruit from now on. Like the rest of the day can pan out however, but this is the one change I'm gonna make. And then you build that foundation and you build those reference experiences of like, okay, I made this change and I stuck to it. And it's like, okay, I made a change and I can make another one, right? And you build that confidence in yourself. But you start small. And you have the ambition to eventually change everything, but you work with like what you can do in the beginning, and you get good at that, and you don't bite off more than you can chew. And I think you got to look at the long game. And I think it's really good to build community and support, whether that's get a coach or that's go to local meetups or find an online group or whatever. But you surround yourself with people who want similar things, even if they're not in person. Is really important, especially if you're like living with people or just like working with people who are like living a very unhealthy lifestyle and they're not a good influence on you. So I guess that would be my advice on that.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree.
Great. Cool. Well, that's all we have here today. It was awesome talking, and we appreciate you coming on our show and sharing some of your experiences and wise words. It was really cool to hear what you had to say. So thank you, Dr. Ben, for coming on here.
Guys,
Yeah, for sure.
It was awesome.
Any final thoughts?
You guys inspired me to have some fruit for breakfast.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, no, can I just share my book again?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, please do.
We'll put the link. We'll put all your info down below as well.
Okay. Yeah, reverse autoimmune disease without drugs, their side effects, createhealthbook.com coming June 2022.
Love it, man. Love it.
And is that for like specific autoimmune diseases or like kind of touches on the all of them, or the concept?
Yeah,
of it?
all of them. Yeah. I mean, there's good information in there, even if you don't have an autoimmune disease, for sure. But it's really focused on teaching people who do have them how to heal.
Nice.
That's
Awesome.
really who it's geared towards.
Yeah, maybe MP and I can like read it, and then we'll do like an episode where we talk about what we learned and a review of it and stuff.
Yeah, we'll
That'd be
definitely do
pretty
Okay, sure. Yeah.
that.
And then you can put my social media links, but it's just my name on everything. But I'm shadow banned on like every platform, so it might be some work to find me, but I'm out there.
cool. Awesome.
Cool. Well, hey, thanks for coming on again today. It was great. Anyways, stay up, be great. Always keep it 100, baby.
Stay healthy and stay hungry.